We had a secret relationship for 3 years, my boss and I. The memories of moving into his luxurious villa, living like any ordinary couple, were still vividly etched in my mind. But now, he was about to enter into a strategic business marriage with the heiress of a major corporation. It was time I knew to let go. The moment I learned of his impending marriage, I was in the kitchen of his villa, brewing him a hangover soup. Business galas were unavoidable, and Alistair, my boss, had a sensitive stomach. A warm, soothing soup upon his return would offer some comfort. It was then that the company WeChat group exploded. A formal announcement from the CEO's office. The wedding date between our general manager, Alistair Blackwood, and Miss Eleanor Houghton of the prestigious Houghton Group had been finalized. Several people from the secretarial pool, including myself, were to be assigned to track the wedding progress. The steam from the soup pot curled around my face, stinging my eyes, a physical echo of the sudden, sharp pain in my chest. As Alistair's secretary and more importantly, his secret girlfriend of 3 years, I understood. This relationship, this carefully hidden chapter of my life, had reached its inevitable end. Later that night, Alistair returned, the heavy scent of alcohol clinging to him. I had already packed my bags, a single suitcase holding the sum of 3 years of my life. It was startlingly small, a stark testament to how few personal belongings I had accumulated in his world. Alistair, I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands, placing a resignation letter on the coffee table. Let's end things. This is my resignation. I wish you all the best for your wedding. Alistair rubbed his temples, the alcohol dulling his senses. Lisi, I told you my marriage wouldn't affect you. Eleanor and I are just entering a business arrangement. She won't cause you any trouble. His long, elegant fingers rested on the resignation letter, pushing it gently back towards me. Take this back. I didn't see it. He stepped closer, his touch surprisingly soft as he brushed a strand of hair from my face. Cece, he murmured, using the intimate nickname he rarely used anymore. Be good. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. Anything. It surprised me, the tenderness in his voice. Alistair, usually so direct, so emotionally reserved, was trying to coax me, to persuade me to stay. But my decision was made. Mr. Blackwood, I said, using his formal title, drawing a clear boundary between us. When I got involved with you, I told you my line was not being a mistress. I won't be that woman. From the first day I met him 3 years ago, I knew Alistair was a shrewd businessman. He calculated everything, every relationship, in terms of gains and losses. His marriage naturally was no exception. I never harbored any illusions of marrying him. I was with Alistair simply because he was a good man, suitable for a relationship, and I, at that time, wasn't interested in marriage, only love. He was good to me. Aside from keeping our relationship a secret, he never lacked in providing for me, showering me with material comforts. During the peak of our relationship, wrapped in his arms, I had once asked him, with all the successful women who surrounded him, why he chose me. He just smiled, evading the question until I pressed him. Then he gently pushed me down, his gaze intense. He said he loved the purity in me, something clear and bright, like a lotus blooming proudly above the mud. I had promised myself then, the moment he had another woman, I would leave without a fuss. But 3 years is a long time. Habits form. I was used to being near him, to falling asleep in his arms. Leaving his villa, I found myself restless, tossing and turning for nights on end. Resigning was a process. I still needed about a month to hand over my duties. Since our one-sided breakup and my move from the villa, Alistair hadn't spoken to me directly, but I felt his eyes on me, a silent intensity that hinted at suppressed rage. Alistair was the CEO's son, the future of the Blackwood Group. His wedding was a major event for the entire corporation. The shift in personnel, the rush to hand over responsibilities, had left the previously organized secretarial office in disarray. Added to that, Alistair's temper seemed to have worsened considerably, making everyone anxious and overworked. It was amidst this chaos that Eleanor Houghton, Alistair's fiancée, unexpectedly reached out and invited me for coffee. I was surprised. Our relationship had been so private, not a single colleague had guessed. How did Eleanor know? At the coffee shop, Eleanor sipped her coffee with practiced ease, her demeanor calm and self-assured. You're probably wondering how I knew about you and Alistair. she said, setting the cup down. Alistair told me himself. Her gaze was direct, unwavering. Alistair asked me to talk to you. About what? I asked, bracing myself. Alistair and I are marrying for mutual benefit. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, we will divorce in 5 years. I don't concern myself with his romantic entanglements outside of our arrangement. So you don't need to worry about me targeting you. She smiled, a polite, businesslike smile. Alistair cares deeply about you. He specifically wanted me to make things clear. With that, Eleanor stood and left, leaving me alone in the bustling cafe, lost in thought. That night, after showering and getting into bed, I found myself replaying Eleanor's words. I won't deny, for a fleeting moment I wavered, but it was just a moment, because I knew with absolute certainty that Alistair was not my destiny. For him, marriage was a transaction. If it wasn't Eleanor, it would be someone else, another heiress, another strategic alliance. I had no real chips to bargain with in his world. Tossing and turning, sleep eluded me. Then I heard it, the distinct sound of his car engine downstairs. Alistair's car was uniquely modified. Its low rumble was unmistakable. My phone rang simultaneously. His voice, tired and rough with fatigue and perhaps emotion, came through the receiver. "Cece, I'm downstairs. Come home with me." I didn't reply. I hung up. Through the window, I saw him leaning against his car, the glow of his cigarette a lonely red point in the darkness. Half an hour later, I heard the engine again. He was leaving. Alistair, with his immense pride, would not come back a third time after being rejected twice. It was truly over. After Alistair left, I went to a nearby bar. I ordered 2 glasses of whiskey, his favorite. The ice clinking against the glass reminded me of his words. "Cece, you're like whiskey. On the surface, you seem so gentle, but you have the strongest spirit." Alcohol was a temporary escape, blurring the edges of reality, helping me forget the pain. I left the bar, completely intoxicated, the world spinning around me. When I woke up, it was well past noon the next day. Sunlight streamed onto my face, warm and comforting. The air was filled with the distinctive aroma of millet porridge. Dazed, I wondered why I would make millet porridge. Alistair hated porridge. Then, a jolt of realization. I wasn't in my apartment. A man in an apron stood at the bedroom door. "I'm your neighbor across the hall," he explained, his voice gentle. "You were very drunk last night. You didn't have your keys, so I took the liberty of taking you in for the night. Don't worry, I'm not a bad person. Get up and get ready. I made you some porridge." He left, giving me space. At the dining table, I learned his name was Eric Shun, a doctor. The night before, I had been so drunk, I had lost my phone and keys somewhere. Unable to get into my apartment, I had sat in the hallway, a drunken mess, startling Eric, who had just returned from a long surgery and was finally catching up on sleep. Out of kindness and gentlemanly conduct, Dr. Shun had given me his bed and slept on the sofa. Fragments of the night before, blurry and embarrassing, flashed in my mind. I wanted to disappear, my toes curling with mortification. 2 boxes of medicine were on the table next to a handwritten note. "These medications will help with stomach discomfort. Take as directed." The handwriting was strong, elegant, beautiful. Thankfully, my phone, keys, and bag had simply been thrown into the bushes downstairs in my drunken stupor. The building's security guard found them and returned them to me. My phone buzzed with a notification. A new message from Alistair. A photo and some text. I was surprised. Hadn't expected him to contact me again. The photo was of the walk-in closet in the villa, the one that had been mine. It was filled with designer clothes, bags, accessories, all worth a fortune. In the 3 years we were together, he had never lacked in providing for me materially. "Your things," his message read. "Come get them." In the center of the photo was a bright pink underarm bag, a perfect example of Alistair's sometimes questionable taste. It was the first gift he had given me after we became exclusive. Despite its ugliness, I had cherished it. But now none of it mattered. "They don't belong to me," I replied, my fingers typing the words with a newfound clarity. "You can dispose of them as you wish." 3 years with him had taught me many things. Not being greedy was one of them. I had entered the relationship with the understanding that marriage was not an option. I wasn't selling my youth. Besides, the experience, the network I had built were more than enough. After officially resigning, I quickly found a new job, a promotion with a better salary. But the work was more demanding. To quickly get up to speed at the new company, 996, working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week, and even 007 working around the clock, became my norm. The high pressure and irregular eating took their toll. After successfully completing my first major project at the new company, I returned to my rented apartment complex feeling dizzy, my stomach churning. I collapsed and was found by a passerby who took me to the hospital. Stomach bleeding. Dr. Shun was the surgeon who performed the procedure. When I woke up, the first person I saw was Alistair. He sat by my bedside, looking thinner than I remembered. "CC," he said, his voice filled with concern. "Why are you doing this to yourself? Quit your job. Come back. I'll take care of you." I didn't know how he had found out I was in the hospital, but I refused to show him any vulnerability. "Thank you, Mr. Blackwood," I said, forcing a weak smile. "I'm doing very well." Alistair looked genuinely angry. He stood up abruptly, staring at me. "You left me only a few months ago, and you've worked yourself into the hospital? You call that doing well?" Seeing my pale, drawn face, his voice softened slightly after a moment. "Lee, see, everything but marriage. I can give you anything." My face was pale, but I managed to maintain a strained smile. "Alistair, you've never understood what I want. I wanted equal love, a partnership. Not to be kept as a mistress." Ended things decisively, not because I couldn't wait 5 years for his contract marriage to end, but because I finally realized that in his heart, I was never considered his equal. "Mr. Blackwood, please leave. I'm sick, it's not a good time to entertain visitors." Alistair opened his mouth to speak again. Just then the hospital room door opened, and Eric Shin walked in carrying a thermos. "Excuse me." "Sir," Eric said, his voice polite but firm. "My girlfriend is hungry. Could you perhaps visit at another time?" He winked at me, a subtle message passed between us. "Cece, I made you some porridge. Try it. See if you like it." Alistair left, his face dark with frustration and anger. After he was gone, I asked Eric why he had said that. He shrugged, smiling faintly. "It's a very effective tactic against self-important, persistent exes." He handed me the bowl of porridge. "I just want my patient to recover peacefully." I knew he liked me, but at that moment, I had neither the time nor the energy for a new relationship. Thankfully, when I politely but clearly conveyed my feelings, he just smiled and let it go. If not lovers, we could still be friends. Eric was kind, funny, and made me feel completely at ease. Exactly 66 days after I was discharged from the hospital, Alistair and Eleanor had their wedding. I expected to feel sad, perhaps even heartbroken. But strangely, I felt only a quiet calm. I went back to work, came home, lived my life. And I calmly accepted Eric's invitation to see a movie together. Greta Gerwig's Little Women was moving. I cried through an entire box of tissues. Leaving the cinema, my eyes were red and swollen. Eric seemed to understand, quietly handing me tissues, not asking about my tears. I was grateful for his consideration. Back at my apartment, I went straight to bed and slept soundly. That night, I finally completely let go of Alistair. I had a whole night of dreams about my past. My family was happy, my parents deeply in love. The only drawback was my father, a sailor, who was often at sea. Everything else was perfect. Until that year, a fierce-looking woman arrived at our door with several people. From the whispers of the curious neighbors, I learned that my father had another family. He wasn't a sailor. He worked in a nearby province. And my mother was a shameful mistress. I will never forget the moment that furious woman saw me. She slapped me hard across the face, pointing at me, her voice spitting venom. "A bastard child born of a mistress. You'll grow up to be a mistress too." Her curse felt like a nightmare, haunting me for years. My parents, through their tragic choices, taught me 2 crucial lessons. 1. Marriage is not to be trusted. 2. Never ever interfere in someone else's marriage. Meeting Alistair felt like the luckiest thing that happened to me in the first 25 years of my life. It was my sophomore year of university. He was a distinguished graduate giving a speech. I was a student council member, helping with the graduation ceremony. I was wearing the required uniform, light-colored, and unfortunately, I had my period and accidentally stained it. Alistair, seeing my embarrassment, casually tossed his suit jacket to me. In that moment he was a shining deity, a real-life bodhisattva. My idol. My senior year I worked hard, overcoming various challenges, and finally landed an internship at Alistair's company. My mindset wasn't just about getting a job, it was about being close to my idol. I was lucky enough to be assigned to the secretarial pool on the same floor as Alistair's office. Seeing him every day was wonderful. I constantly found excuses to sneak glances at him. Alistair was incredibly charming, and gradually I fell completely under his spell. When he proposed a secret relationship, I agreed without hesitation. For 3 years we lived like clandestine lovers, our relationship thrilling and romantic. Just as I was completely lost to him, Alistair's engagement to Eleanor slapped me back to reality. He had never seen me as a true partner. I was merely a gilded cage, a pet kept for his pleasure. But the gilded cage had woken up. It had broken free, even if its wings were bruised and aching from the struggle. But freedom, however painful, was worth it. Alistair vanished from my life, and my emotional world began to mend, finding its way back to light. They say the best way to forget an old love is to start a new one. So when Eric, again claiming it was on the way, offered to drive me to and from work, I didn't refuse. Sitting in the passenger seat, I looked at him directly and asked, "Eric, do you still like me?" Eric paused slightly, then nodded. "Yes, I do." "Then, let's try being together." I decided to give myself a chance, and him one too. Our relationship developed naturally, effortlessly. There were no grand, dramatic events, just a gradual process of spending time together, until everyone around us saw us as a couple. People would often tease us, "When are you two getting married?" To which Eric would always reply with a gentle smile, "When I fatten Cece up a bit, so she looks better in her wedding dress." It was a light-hearted way to deflect the question and ease any awkwardness. He never pressured me in any way. His kindness was so consistent, so profound, that I began to imagine what life would be like married to Eric. What solidified my decision was a movie we saw together. Afterwards, a group of drunk young men started a confrontation. Eric, protecting me, took a glass bottle to the head. Blood covered half his face, but he seemed completely unfazed, immediately asking if I was hurt. I cried uncontrollably, exposing my most vulnerable side to him. After getting bandaged up, half his face swollen, he still smiled at me. "Silly girl, I'm a doctor. If I say I'm fine, I'm fine." He continued, despite his injuries, trying to cheer me up. "I learned martial arts in university, though I've forgotten most of it. Otherwise, those punks wouldn't have gotten near you. Look at you crying, your makeup's ruined. Don't cry. I'll have to buy you a new set of cosmetics." "Eric Shun, stop talking," I yelled, sniffling, my voice thick with tears. "Let's get married." He froze for a moment, then his bandaged eye crinkled with joy. He gripped my hand tightly and said, "Okay." After that, we started planning our marriage, discussing the paperwork. My new job was busy, and I began working late again. But when Alistair appeared at my company building and grabbed me, pulling me into his car, I was completely caught off guard. In the confined space of the sports car, he pressed close, his face near mine. I saw the stubble on his jaw, how much thinner his face was. Even looking rough, he was still striking. "Alistair, what are you doing?" My heart pounded. He was rarely this visibly agitated. His eyes were red-rimmed. "Cece, I regret it." Seeing my confused look, he clarified, "I regret letting you go. Cece, come back to me, please." He leaned in, attempting to kiss me. I turned my head away, avoiding his lips. "Mr. Blackwood," I said, my voice sharp with irony, "you're a married man now. Aren't you afraid of Mrs. Blackwood finding out?" Alistair stared at me intensely. "Eleanor and I. It's just a business marriage." "Alistair." A surge of emotion welled up. I swallowed the harsh words I wanted to yell, forcing myself to calm down. "Don't say those words to me again. Are you trying to insult me, or yourself?" Taking advantage of his momentary surprise, I pushed him away, opened the car door, and got out. I hadn't walked far when his voice, strained and anxious, called out after me. "I know what you care about. You want our relationship to be acknowledged, right? If I divorce her, if I divorce Eleanor, will you give me another chance? Will you come back to me?" I stopped dead. I turned back, looking at him for a long moment. Then I smiled and slowly shook my head. "Alistair, stop this. You won't divorce her for me, and you won't marry me. All the sweet words you told me. They were like poisoned honey. I was willing to taste it, willing to be poisoned. But I'm sober now. My voice was soft, filled with a strange detachment. You should focus on building a relationship with your wife. She seems like a good person. It felt strangely easy to say those words, as if I had emptied something heavy from my chest. Alistair's face, already gaunt, seemed to wither, lines deepening. He concealed the redness in his eyes, his hand shaking as he pulled a small notebook from his pocket. His voice was heavy like lead. Eleanor and I are divorced. Lisi. You never believed me, not once, did you? The red divorce certificate he held, visible to me from where I stood, stung my eyes, but only momentarily. Alistair, I said, my voice incredibly calm, drawing my hand gently from his trembling fingers. From the moment I was with you, I believed you. Until the day we broke up, I believed you. Thank you for giving me this ending. His entire body seemed to tense, his eyes suddenly bright. He grabbed my hand again, his voice excited, trembling. Then you'll come back? That's wonderful. Alistair. I looked at him, gently pulling my hand free again. I'm sorry. I've already decided to get married. Alistair's face seemed to dissolve into the dark night. He stood there immobile, even after I turned and walked away. I thought I heard him cry, but I wasn't sure. Back in my apartment, I stood by the tall window and watched him. He stood in the same spot, slightly hunched, unmoving. Had never seen him look so pathetic. He stayed there all night. I had finished working late, but I hadn't gone home immediately. I truly did not want to see him again. In that moment, I was certain his apologies were sincere. But some feelings once missed can never be recaptured. The news of Alistair's divorce was a sensation, dominating the local headlines for days. The fallout from the failed Blackwood-Houghton alliance was the talk of the town. On the very day Eric and I were to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register our marriage, Alistair's assistant called me. Alistair had collapsed from stomach bleeding during a board meeting and been rushed to the hospital. He hadn't eaten in days, drinking heavily at bars. His stomach problems, which I had helped manage for years, had flared up again due to his self-neglect. What unsettled me most was a text message he had sent me that morning. See me one last time. Then I'll let go. Alistair, how had he become so childish? Instinctively, I reached for my phone, dialing his number. It rang and rang unanswered. For several long seconds I held the phone, then slowly I remembered. Ethan and I were nothing to each other now. I put my phone away, a small quiet sadness in my heart. I looked up and saw Eric watching me, his expression gentle, understanding. He slowly released my hand. Cece, he said, his voice soft. Perhaps we should come back to register another day? Eric, you're misunderstanding. I was just feeling a moment of melancholy, reflecting on the past. I wanted to explain, but Eric simply smiled gently, took my hand and led me out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Eric produced a small box, his voice still soft. This is the wedding ring I prepared. I wanted to place it on your finger after we registered. He placed the ring box in my hand. Cece, I love you. I will keep this ring for you, but I hope you will be sure of your feelings. Marry me because you love me, not out of gratitude. I was silent. Eric was as gentle as a breeze, and I knew he was referring to the time he had helped me. Cece, I'm sorry. I actually forgot to bring my household registration book. Don't be upset with me, all right? He offered me an easy out, a plausible reason for not registering that day. I took it. In that moment, I made a decision. I would sever all ties to my past, to Alistair, completely, so I could marry Eric with a clear heart. That day, I went to see Alistair at the hospital, refusing to see him again, telling him his fate was no longer my concern. I blocked him, changed my phone number, severing every link. But when I tried to contact Eric again, I couldn't find him. Some people, when they are in your life, seem unassuming, but their absence leaves a void, making everything feel off. Eric was like that. In just a few short months, he had quietly become an integral part of my life, rooting himself in my heart. His presence felt everywhere. I went to his hospital, only to be told he was away on advanced studies. My calls went unanswered. I started missing him. The seed of longing, once planted, grew quickly into a mighty tree. I sent him message after message on WeChat, but received no reply. He was smart. I was smart. Perhaps that day he was hurt. Perhaps he regretted his decision. I even thought if he chose to disappear from my life like this, perhaps I shouldn't try to find him. As if fate were determined to test me, my career suddenly faced a crisis. My company was being acquired, massive layoffs were imminent. The air was thick. With tension, everyone fighting to prove their worth. I too threw myself into the work, grateful for the demanding schedule that left me no time to dwell on Eric. 2 weeks later, the acquisition was finalized, and the new boss arrived. Seeing Alistair in the crowd, I couldn't believe my eyes. He was the mysterious investor who had acquired our company. Alistair had always focused on real estate and manufacturing. Why acquire a gaming company? It made no sense. Alistair, as the new head of the company, called a meeting of all department heads. After the meeting, he asked me to come to his office alone. Closing the door behind him, he leaned against it, looking relaxed, almost cheerful. "Secretary Lee," he said, his voice light. "We're back to our old routine. This is good." 3 years as his secretary meant I understood his unspoken meaning. "Mr. Blackwood," I asked, avoiding his gaze, "why did you acquire this company? As far as I know, you weren't interested in the gaming industry." He smiled faintly, his answer evasive. "I heard. You changed your mind about marrying your boyfriend." He walked slowly towards me. "Cece, come back to me. Promise you there will be no other Mrs. Blackwood to make you unhappy. If you wish to marry me, I will persuade my parents to accept you." His words were like a siren's song. "From now on we'll be happy." The scene was eerily familiar, yet utterly different from 3 years ago. Then in this same office, he had stood before me, imperious, handing me a document, his voice cold as he laid out his rules for our secret relationship. "Lee C, these are my 12 requirements for a girlfriend. The most important. Once we are officially together, you are not to reveal our relationship to anyone. If you violate this rule, the consequences will be severe." Now his eyes were filled with uncertainty and hope, his voice trembling as he pleaded. "Cece, give me another chance." Times had changed, and I was no longer the naive young woman I had been. I shook my head firmly, my voice devoid of emotion. "Thank you, Mr. Blackwood, for your misplaced affection. I am already engaged." I had likely refused him more times than any other woman. I turned to leave. My hand on the doorknob, I looked back. "Mr. Blackwood," I asked, my voice flat, "do you require another resignation letter?" To my surprise, he laughed, a soft, gentle sound. "I wouldn't fire a subordinate for refusing my affections, Cece. I'm ready. Ready to pursue you again." Back at my desk, I couldn't help but think about how much Alistair had changed since we broke up. His intentions were no longer easy to read. The following days were a blur of work and Alistair's clumsy attempts to win me back. Anonymous flowers, gifts delivered with notes bearing his notoriously bad handwriting and awkwardly sweet phrases. No matter how clearly I told him my feelings for him were gone, Alistair remained convinced my resistance was just a small obstacle on the path to getting me back. His unwavering confidence was frustrating, and it pushed me to make a final decision. I packed a box with all the gifts Alistair had ever given me. I included a new resignation letter. I mailed it all to him. This time I was leaving. Completely. I found a new apartment, even began making plans to move to a different city. A city where Alistair Blackwood would not exist in my life. I saw Eric Shen again after a month of traveling. I had just gotten home when my doorbell rang. I opened the door. Eric stood there, his right arm in a cast, the sling resting against his long neck. "Your hand. What happened?" My joy at seeing him was instantly replaced by worry. I reached out, wanting to examine his injury, but hesitated, unsure what to do. "It's fine now," he said, grinning. I noticed he was a little more tanned. In his soft, measured voice, he explained, "The night we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau, a severe earthquake struck our sister city in Africa. Eric was immediately deployed to provide emergency aid. In the rush to leave, he hadn't had time to tell me. Communications were difficult abroad, making it impossible to contact me. During the aid mission, he was injured. A rock fractured his arm, allowing him to return home. That was why he hadn't been able to reach me, hadn't replied to any of my messages. "I'm so sorry, Cece," he said, his eyes filled with remorse. "I couldn't reply to your messages. I saw all the voicemails, all the texts. Was so worried. He pointed to a message I had sent him, the one with my new address. It was the only message I had sent him since moving. Eric Shun, you're the most foolish person I know, I said, tears welling up. You scared me to death. I thought you didn't want me anymore. Eric's eyes shone even brighter. How could you think that? I gave you the ring, didn't I? What's given can't be taken back. He looked at me, his tone suddenly playful, teasing. Though, I heard you've been receiving quite a few expensive gifts lately. Will my little ring even catch Miss Lee's eye anymore? So Dr. Shun got jealous. I covered my mouth, trying to stifle my laughter, and linked my arm through his. Dr. Shun, even though you're a patient, I need you to do me a favor. Is that okay? He paused, then nodded seriously. The weather's nice. Let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Let's get married. Epilogue. Eric and I got married. Our wedding wasn't grand, but it was intimate and heartfelt. Eric took my hand, and we walked down the aisle under twinkling lights. As he had promised, he placed the sparkling ring on my finger. I had never felt so happy. Every breath felt sweet, pure. This feeling was completely different from the happiness I had shared with Alistair. Even in our best moments, it was a sense of groundedness, of security. My feet felt firmly on the ground, and there was a soft wall at my back. I could hold his hand, walk confidently through the crowd, laugh freely. I knew Alistair was there that day. He didn't enter the venue. He stood outside, watching from a distance as Eric knelt to propose to me. Then he turned and walked away. After that day, he never appeared in my life again. Everything had unfolded exactly as I had wished.